established the basis upon which the 30% derivation principles was provided for in the Constitution. So if you look at the proviso to Section 162 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, provided for the 30% derivation for the oil producing states, especially the states in the Niger Delta, which you can call the Little T states. And the fundamental reason for the provisions in the Constitution is to ensure that oil being produced from these states will have adverse impact, environmental impact, adverse environmental impact of those zones. So it was contemplated that 30% of what is derived from what is produced from oil should be shared to the states where this oil is derivable from. That is why it's called the derivation principle or the derivation fund, part of the revenue of government. What that simply seems to mean, therefore, is that the 30% derivation fund is distinct from the statutory allocations and internally generated revenues of states. So, therefore, the states ought ordinarily to have distinctive projects dedicated through the 30% derivation funds. But unfortunately, however, the states in question, especially the Niger Delta states or the oil producing states, have not transparently, through accountability, distinguished or specifically named projects that were produced through the 30% funds. So what that simply seems to mean is that they are not accountable. They have not been able to account for how the 30% derivation funds have been utilized in those states. So recently, of course, the River State Governor, Nyesom Wike, posited that the states in the Niger Delta, that is the oil producing state, should of course tell the citizens, their people, how far they have been able to utilize the money. Unfortunately, none of the governors has come up to say this is what we spent the 30% derivation funds for. For now, we are yet to see what the governors of the oil producing states are using the 30%. So definitely this forum, we are using it to call on the governors to disclose to citizens, to account for the citizens how far they have spent the 30% derivations that is coming from the revenue allocation account to those states. Because as I've said earlier, the 30% derivation was intended for environmental sustainability, environmental governance, and the protection of the environment against the adverse effects of oil exploration and exploitation in the zones. Because oil exploration and exploitation have its own adverse impact on the environment, resulting from fossil fuel affecting those zones. So the basis was to cushion the impact. The basis of 30% derivation force is to cushion the adverse impact oil exploration and exploitation we have on the oil producing state. But as I said, all of this is yet to be seen. Now, if you see recently, the Niger Delta and the oil producing state were adversely affected by flooding. Flooding affects the environment, affects the economy of the environment, also affects crops and other means of livelihood, including fisheries and all of that, aquatic and all of that in the environment. The question now is that how well has this 30% have been deployed to ensure that the better the loss of the citizen? That is left to be seen. Again, you will see situations where this 30% derivation is part of what was contemplated to ensure that the areas affected by oil exploration are cleaned up, including the Ogoni Clean Up policy, now taken over by the UNDP, to ensure that the environment is protected. Governance is brought to bear. What we have seen so far is that no governor, since inception, since 1999, has been able to tell the citizens of the state what they have channeled the 30% derivation funds to. So that is why we have issue of poor governance, issue of erosion, issue of flooding, issue of deforestation, in the society. So to me, I believe that it is a wake-up call. The citizens also now have opportunity to call the governors to order to account for the 13% derivation of which they have been given from the federation account. And more importantly, the governors can be investigated. The citizens can initiate a process of subjecting the governors, of course, to investigation. And more importantly, is that a legal action can also be instituted. Again, the governors have their owners believe that because of the immunity they enjoy, they cannot be sued. But the government of the states, of those states, can be sued and join the Attorney General and the Minister or Commissioner of Finance and join them in the suit for them to account how the money, because the also government can be sued to account for the people in the state. So there's a distinction between the state, as Edo State, and those in government. So Edo State government can be sued, join the Attorney General, and especially the the Commissioner for Finance in the state, to ensure that they account to the people of the state how the 30% derivation funds have been utilized over the years. So that, of course, the people can continually interrogate the government and see how the resources that is meant for the well-being of the city have been deployed by government. It is only by so doing, of course, we can continue to hold the government accountable to the people. Otherwise, it will just be a mere mirage of government. So to us, we are using this avenue to call on the people to ask the government. Unfortunately, especially in our state, we do not have a House of Assembly properly constituted to question the government of the day, because inability to account is an impeachable offense. Acts of corruption or act of trading the state in secrecy is actionable. It amounts to a misconduct that can be impeached or an impeachable offense. But what we have seen in Edo State, for instance, is situations where the House of Assembly legislates from the executive arm of government, and that is not ideal. There are plethora of judicial authorities that the legislative business of a state house assembly can only be properly conducted by the assembly so designated. So also it is to other states that are producing oil. The House of Assembly have becomes an extension of the state government. Not just the state governor, the state government. The state governor himself dictates what happened in the House of Assembly. So these are some of the issues. That's the basis of the checks and balances that was provided for in the Constitution by virtue of Section 4, 5, and 6 of the 1999 Constitution. The question is that all of these provisions are now being observed in the breach by governors or state because they have enough resources, especially this 30% derivation principle. The governors can decide to use it to bribe whoever they want to bribe without development. And nobody will ask them questions, because those who are supposed to ask those questions, who are supposed to subject the government to accountability, are now also playing on the side of the government. So the question now that who bears the cat? Who bears the cat? But the citizen has an obligation, because it is the citizen of the state that elects a governor. Therefore, they can demand accountability from the government to see how the resources of the state, apart from the 30% derivation, states also derive revenue from statutory allocation. Statutory allocation. So the statutory allocation itself has not been also been accounted for. And that source of government revenue is eternally generating revenue, which the government is not even accountable to anybody. The question is that how has these resources through taxpayer, how has it been plowed back into the environment? How has it been plowed back into governance? How has it been able to assist the citizens of the state to good governance? All of these are questions that, of course, government should continue to ask now. Again, if we want to situate this issue, especially in Edo State, it is only in Edo State among the South or the Oyo Presidency where we don't have local government administration in place. The another question is that the resources, the allocation going to local government in our state, how is it being accounted for? Who uses it now? Who are those persons? What are the projects that will be executed from the resources from local government. To say these resources or this allocation for local government, we have used it to do A and B, C, D in local government A as well about. So it means that the funds for local government in our state is not being accounted for. The 30% derivation is not being accounted for. The statutory allocation is not being accounted for. And the 30% derivation, most importantly, which is now the burning issue, is not being accounted for. So there are several varying areas where government is not accountable to the people. That is why we have snail-pace development in the country. Because if the states making up this country are not developed, it will be very difficult for the federal government to develop each state. We also have situations where, for instance, state government collect revenue from federal roads. Vehicle plying those roads, they pay revenue to government by way of revenue. But the same government will say they can't renovate the road or repair this road because they are federal government roads. For instance, if you go to Sapele Road, they say it's a federal government road. But ESMA people block people there and collect money from them on just same road, which the governor says they cannot repair. If you go down, those motorists that plow this road, they collect revenue from them. But the same government, if you go to Sapele Road, also motor, the excuse of government is that it's a federal. You appropriate, can you in one aspect say it is a federal government road, and as such you cannot develop it? In another angle, you said you can collect revenue from motorists on that same road. The question now is that how well do you plow the money that you collect from that road back to the road? These are questions. And people don't ask this question. You block people on Sapele Road, confiscate their vehicle, collect money from them. The same road is bad as we speak. The government on one angle start calling on federal government and say, look, the road is bad, it's a federal government road. And no citizen have asked question. The money that is being generated from this road, how well have the government plowed back on the road? Again, let me not also say that we can say that some of these federal government roads are now the economic hub of the states. If you go to Sapele, you say there are other sources of revenue from government that government do not account to the people. Now, if you also talk about the issue of security, I'm not going to be talking the security votes around to 700 something million on every month. The question is that how sophisticated is our security architecture? All the states, no exception. How sophisticated? If they were so sophisticated, this issue of terrorism, robbery, armed robbery, and kidnapping and all of that would have been kept in abeyance. But what do we have? We have a government that do not plow back into the system what it has received from the system. Because ordinarily, all these resources we are talking about, they are received from the system. They are ordinarily supposed to be plowed back to the system to rejuvenate the system. But people, of course, for whatever reasons, decide to put the monies into their pockets or try to use it for. We can even see the people taking money abroad. They go and load them abroad or buy houses in Dubai and so many areas. So the question is that the truth remains that apart from the 30% derivation, government business have been shrouded in secrecy. Government is actually not accountable to the people. And the people more food than not also do not interrogate the government. And the government just feel that those who would have actually interrogated has been bought over. And as such, they do not owe an obligation to the citizens. That's why we have poor governance. People run abroad now. They say the new concept called Japa. People are going abroad. Why are they going abroad? If the environment is developed, if there is light, if there are roads, if there are job opportunities, why will you Japa? Well, because the resources have not been utilized for the purpose for which it is meant. That is what